We're going in for our first Airstream service visit. We've got about 5 items we need looking at. We're going to drive up to Atlanta, spend the night at the dealership overnight, and the next morning, hopefully, they're going to be bringing us in and taking care of our issues. So let me show you what we're going to have looked at, and then I'll follow this up and show you what they actually did to resolve those issues. So stick around. In this front storage compartment, there is a piece of molding that goes around the lip here, and when it comes up, it exposes this sharp metal right there, if you can see that, and it will cut. So I have put this molding back on several times, and every time it comes right back off. So I hope what they'll do is maybe put a rivet in right here and then glue the molding in place. I think the number one item that annoys me is this dinette table. It's not level. It's off a good bit. If you can see that indication on that level there, it is off, and you can, to get it back in level, it would have to come up about that far. But it's visibly unlevel. You can just tell by looking at the table. I think what will have to be done is, again, I'm not the expert, but I think those little latches there in the back are going to have to be dropped down. The Rangehood fan, it will come on just fine. But when you're cooking, after about 3 or 4 or 5 minutes, the fan will shut off. I've done some research, and it's something to do with the electronics in there. There is not a capacitor, but something that detects the temperature and it shuts the fan off. Well, it really makes the fan useless. If you're cooking and you have smoke or heat coming off of the stovetop, that's what you want to exhaust out. Baraldi, I think you pronounce this Baraldi, range hood top. Under the front storage compartment, right where the skin meets the flooring, there's a piece of molding about 1.25 inches wide. And just on the top edge of that molding, it appears that the skin has started to separate a little bit on each side, driver's side and passenger side. And on the driver's side especially, it appears that there might even be a little dent. So I'm thinking there may be some stress going on there. So I'm going to have that looked at. Then the last item is the tag light here. And you can see how it's separating. It's pretty flimsy there. I've tried to tighten up that screw, but that didn't do anything. So I'm not sure. I think something in there is actually broken. I didn't want to take it apart. Okay, I wanted to give you a recap on the service visit to Southland RV that we had. We arrived there on a Monday night, the night before our appointment, and the service department doesn't take in new customers till about 9 a.m. Although employees start showing up about 7:30, they're going to work, but they don't. The service writer doesn't come out and get your issues documented and get you underway till 9 o'clock. But we got right in. They knew we were coming and they were prepared for us. And I had 5 issues to look at, and they, I think, did a really good job. 4 of the issues are completely resolved. One issue I'm going to talk about in just a minute, I believe, is more of a design feature for that hood range vent, but we'll talk about that in just a minute. So going through these, there was squeaking in the bedroom floor on both sides of the bed. We have the 27 front bed with the queen, so we can walk around 3 sides of the bed. And when we did, the floor was squeaking very loud. You could really hear it all the time. So the service writer said they'd have to lubricate that, and I couldn't imagine what they were doing. But what they did was they took the molding up around the edge of the wall. It's a thin molding, about 3/4 of an inch. Took that up and they used WD-40 lubricant up in there to lubricate actually where the wall is butting up against the floor. But the good news is the squeaking is just about gone. You know, rare occasions you can hit something and you might pick up a little noise, but I'm pleased with it. They put the molding back in. There's no odor. There's no feel of greasiness down there anywhere along the edge of that molding. So I'll have to give them a thumbs up on that. The next thing was on the front storage compartment, there was a piece of the interior skin that was not completely bonded to the outside skin, and it would come open and the gap open about this far with a real sharp point. I think you saw the images on that. Well, they came through and they put 5 rivets in that, so they riveted that up real tight, and they, I think, using some contact cement, put the molding back on there, and it's solid now. You know, that's thumbs up as well. Really good there. The license plate light was coming apart. There's a little light that hangs over your license plate, and that was coming apart. And I played with it a little bit. I couldn't get it tightened back in. I was really afraid I was going to break it. But they got that secured in. They didn't even have to replace that. And that issue is resolved as well. The day before our appointment, I found an issue on the front of the trailer right under the storage compartment door, where on each side it had started to separate. The front skin was separating from the molding, and you could see where the caulking had been broken in there. And on one side, the driver's side, there was a little indentation, like it had been under pressure. Well, they looked at that and assured me that that was completely normal, but they did re-caulk that to ensure there's a good water barrier there and that no water would get in. So that's something that I'm going to keep my eye on. I'm not sure why it had that stress point, the little bit of indentation dent. I'm not going to put that one to rest. I want to put a few thousand miles on the trailer and see what happens. But at least for now, it's watertight, and that's what was really had me worried for the moment. Now, the one issue that really did not get resolved is the Rangehood fan. It actually shuts off 2 or 3 minutes after it's running. Once you're cooking something and it's creating some steam or heat that goes up into that exhaust fan, there's a heat sensor or something up in there that shuts that fan off. Well, of course, they could not reproduce those symptoms because they weren't cooking anything, and I understand that. And I asked about bypassing the heat sensor that's in there. I've done a little research out on air forums, and there's 2 or 3 threads there that talk about this issue. Well, the dealer called Airstream in Jackson Center and asked them about it, and they said no, they could not bypass that heat sensor. So the dealer offered to bypass it at my expense, and I decided not to do that. I'm going to research it a little bit more, and I may end up bypassing that heat sensor, but it's really a design issue, and I guess for now we're going to leave it like that. A workaround that we have figured out is while you're cooking, if you'll just keep cutting the fan on and then off, on and then off, it seems to you know, give you some service at least, but it's not nearly put to rest at this point. Well, I almost forgot to give you the update on the dinette table, but the table has never set level since we had the unit. It's always been off level by at least an inch. So when I showed that to the service writer, he says, oh yeah, that's kind of a common problem. Airstream only has one length of leg, and they put that on there, and sometimes it's too long. And the fix to this is they took the leg and sawed off some of the bottom, leveled up the table. So if you're sitting out there and your table's not level, you now know what the fix is. Check your leg. So to recap about our very first scheduled service visit to Southland RV, I'll give it a complete thumbs up. I had a nice conversation with Caesar, the service writer that took care of us, and also had a walk around with Steve, the service manager. As you saw, they're in their new facility now, and it looks quite nice in there. A lot of capability going on there. So service, I'll say that I'm completely happy at this point. Everything that was performed was covered under warranty, and I think we're going to wrap the video up right here. So thanks for watching. If you haven't already clicked that subscribe button, go ahead and click that now and ring that little bell so you get notifications of all of my future videos. And until next time, thanks for watching.